Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Danielle Nicholas. I'm the owner and sole organizer of Oasis Organizing Solutions. I've been organizing professionally for about 3 years, and in that time, I've helped dozens of individuals and families, work through their clutter and, reduce their stress through organizing. So Alex and I are happy to have you here tonight. We're going to share some advice on how to declutter before you downsize and the importance of and benefits of organizing throughout your moving process. So now I'll pass it over to Alex.
Yeah, my name is Alex Navarro. I am an associate broker and realtor here in the Boston area, and I help people buy and sell homes. And so many times I am in need of Danielle's services to help my clients not only with their move, but also just, making their next home really comfortable so that they are happy where they are and, not getting ready to move again soon afterwards. So really excited to be here tonight. Danielle is awesome, and I will just be in the chat ready to answer any questions, but it's a small group so far, so please feel free to jump in, unmute, ask questions. We would love to talk to you. So thanks, Danielle.
Yeah. All right. Oh, don't want to go all the way back. Let's see. Alrighty. So what is downsizing and what is organizing, or what is decluttering? So in the organizing world, these two words are fairly interchangeable because, to put it simply, the term downsizing just means to reduce in size. So when discussing downsizing in terms of home ownership, it's the act of buying a smaller home than your current dwelling. Alex, do you have anything to add to this kind of term and how it's used in the real estate world?
Yeah, for sure. I know, usually if a client needs some help decluttering, they're most likely getting ready for an open house. If they're looking to downsize, they're probably specifically making a move into a smaller home. Depending on what their needs are, they might, just not be able to have as much stuff. They might end up with a lot of storage units and maybe decide they don't need all of those.
Sure. Yeah. So, as Alex said, when somebody decides to downsize, decluttering is a pretty crucial part of that. And decluttering is the process of removing excess and unwanted items, from your home. And this would happen before you downsize, as you would obviously have less physical space, less storage to put those belongings. And both of these terms kind of signify the importance and freedom that comes with owning less. Right. So when and why should you declutter? So obviously when we're talking about downsizing, it's before you kind of list your home and move into your new space. And it's most beneficial to start decluttering as early as possible, even if that means starting small and way ahead of schedule. So, consider the amount of stuff that you've accumulated over the years while living in your current home. It can be a massive undertaking. So it's, in your best interest to start as early as possible, rather than take on this task, and kind of cram it in during the moving process. Because that alone is already incredibly stressful. And, if you try to get it all done during that time, it only contributes to the overwhelm. So decluttering can ultimately save you time and money when you're about to move. Owning less means less time packing. It means less money spent on packing materials and movers, storage units. It means needing less storage. So your home buying options open up significantly. You can consider, even smaller spaces, or, homes that just don't quite have as much storage, Whereas if you still needed to house all of, the accumulated belongings that you've had in your previous home, it kind of just opens up the opportunities a little more when you have less stuff to store. Um, so let's see, Alex, do you think you can share with us some sort of timeline for getting your home on the market, and why it's important to get a head start on the decluttering process from a realtor's perspective?
Yeah, for sure. Everyone's timeline, it can be very different, so it's hard to say specifically what one person might need. But in general, if you're at a point where you've decided to sell your home, you've got your pre-approval, you know where you're going, we could get your home on the market and sold within 30 to 60 days. But doing the preparation for that, doing the decluttering and cleaning things up to make it look as nice as possible so you get the best price possible, that could take as little as a week, or it could take, a couple weeks, depending on how much stuff you've got to downsize, or, you've got to clean up. So I know you'd be able to give a really good estimate based on whoever needs that specific help. But the sooner we can get things organized, the sooner we can take photos, the sooner we can get it listed, and, you can start making your moves to your next place.
Right. Yeah. And I think that the decluttering process can kind of be all consuming. So you really want to tackle as much as possible before, you start focusing on all that comes with listing a home. And, I've worked with a couple of clients so far, one of which had lived in a home for about 40 years. And they were an elderly couple, and their kids were living down in, I believe, South Carolina. So they were, trying the best they could to come up and spend time with them and help them chip away at it. But as you can assume, 40 years of accumulated belongings is a lot of stuff, and it's a lot to handle on your own. So when I came in, I tried to break it down as much as I could, but they were kind of getting toward crunch time, and it's a very overwhelming process to move, and especially if you know you're working with little to no support, and you have a lot to kind of go through. So we did have to take on a few other helping hands, but that just kind of goes to show you just want to start as soon as possible, even if that means just chipping away a little at a time. So, um, all right. So that kind of brings us to some practical tips for decluttering. I'll say this over and over again. It doesn't hurt to start small. Those little victories matter, and they kind of build momentum. So you're able to tackle those larger projects over time. So start way ahead of schedule. Anytime as far out as your move date as possible. But when somebody decides they want to downsize and they're already in the process of listing their home, I'd say probably give it a good like month or so. If you're doing it on your own, but really when you're working with a professional organizer, I tend to say about 3 to 4 weeks before your listing date or move date, sorry. So carve out time and put it on your calendar. It's harder to declutter when you're just trying to go about your business, go about your day. So really carve out that time and put it on a calendar, set some reminders for yourself. Just make some visuals like a to-do list. And in turn, you'd kind of be able to better map out and plan and goal set by doing that. Another good one would be involve all members of the household, as well as family and adult children whose belongings may still be stored at your home. Um, Start with items that are less sentimental. I think this is pretty important because folks can get really caught up on working with those items that they can't quite make a decision on. And that tends to be the items that we are strongly tied to, whether emotionally or because they are of value. So really start with those things that you own that are that you're less attached to, that are, don't have as much sentiment to them.
Danielle, I not to
Yeah,
interrupt you, but I love that advice because every time I go down to my basement, every 6 months and try and clean out some stuff, I always get trapped looking at old photos, reading,
right.
an old journal or like a yearbook, and I waste so much time doing that. I mean, I enjoy it, don't get me wrong.
It's
It's
enjoyable.
cool.
Yeah.
It's cool to go down
Um,
memory lane, but it really does pull, hours out of your planned time to actually start cleaning. I
sure. I
appreciate that reminder.
totally, yeah, I totally agree with that. It can be enjoyable to look back on memories. It can be entertaining. It can be, a great experience. But if you have, kind of a date to, I don't know, that you need to get things done before, it can really derail you to start by looking at some of those more personal items first. So I really think it's a good idea to start with things that, you kind of have less attachment to.
Yeah, it'll keep you
Um,
on mission.
what's that?
It'll keep you on mission a lot better.
Yeah, it certainly will. And then there's no harm in maybe saving those things for last. And you don't have to make a cutthroat decision on those things, but definitely save them for last. It'll save you some time. Um, Set up donation and discard boxes in various rooms to declutter as you go about your day. So, I think this is really helpful for those folks who either have a difficult time scheduling or just don't have the time, physically don't have the time. And their reality is, work and their families and a lot of other things that they need to prioritize. And setting up boxes in your rooms can help you just declutter as you go about your day. So when you're cruising through your closet to choose something to wear and you have your donation box set up next to the closet, if you come across that old t-shirt or blouse that you no longer like or want to wear or you don't feel comfortable in, but it's just been sitting in your closet, you can take it out and immediately get it off to the next place that it could go, which is the donation box. um let's see, choosing worthy causes to donate to will make it easier to part with items. So if there are nonprofits that are close to your heart, or causes that you want to support, it's easier to let go of something if you have a place for it to go, and it could go to people who actually need it. I always suggest to my clients to first look for local shelters, women and family shelters that need the clothing, rather than defaulting to like a Savers or Salvation Army, which even those have some good worthy value to them. But I think that staying local is important when it comes to donating your items, and it's going to a good cause. A couple others here: make it enjoyable. It is a pretty daunting task, and there are a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of work to do when it comes to decluttering. So any way you can make it a more positive experience, the better. I love popping on music when I'm doing it myself, or when I'm working with a client. I always suggest to them to, put on your favorite playlist, and let's kind of jam out while we declutter. Um, you can put on a podcast, an audiobook. If you have something that is, a category that has a lot of items in it, like photos or shoes or books, you can kind of prop yourself up on the couch, toss on a show, go through things, like that. So you're a little bit distracted, but still able to focus on your work. Um, all right. So when you're decluttering, you should also kind of ask yourself, a few questions about the item that you have. Um, so you can feel free to take a photo of this, kind of save it. So when you're decluttering, you can reference it. So is this item simply trash or recycling? That can be kind of a simple question, but I've worked with a lot of clients who just kind of have empty boxes that they don't realize are empty, or, things that are just broken that just, you can make a quick decision and they're simply trash or recycling. Is it useful? Do I use it on a regular basis? Do I have many of the same type of item? I think that this is you know, um, again, another kind of simple question to ask, but if you have, a bunch of pens, a bunch of white t-shirts, a bunch of spatulas, it doesn't hurt to kind of thin those categories out, and it might be a bit easier for you to do to let things like that go if you have so many of them. Does owning the item bring you happiness, frustration, guilt? It's important to kind of tap into your emotions when it comes to some of the items you own, because you could be just keeping something around because you feel the guilt of either whoever gave it to you, or you feel guilty for not using that thing. But really, kind of feel how you feel about it, and don't hold on to it if it's causing negative emotions. um could it be stored, become backstock, or live in another place in the home? So that's more for if you're decluttering in your current space. I always like to keep what I'm actively using in my primary storage spaces, and then kind of the rest becomes backstock, or it can be stored somewhere more permanent. Could I digitalize or take a picture of it? So this would be more of like a personal memento, photos or documents, um, rather than keeping the physical item itself. In this case, if it's maybe your kiddo made a really beautiful piece of art and you don't quite want to let it go, but it's kind of adding to the clutter and you already have so many of them, maybe just snapping a photo of that piece of art and very quietly recycling it. Or maybe it's you have a lot of photos and you can digitalize them, or create maybe a keepsake book instead of having all those photos themselves. So another one would be, would another person, family member, or friend get better use out of this item? Um, I just came across something recently where it's like, it said something like, ask yourself, could somebody else use this, rather than, will I use this someday? So a lot of the times we're holding on to things because either, they're valuable, or we have attachment to them, but also we think we might use them one day. So ask yourself, could somebody use this thing right now instead of me using this someday? And then the last one, will the item, one second here. Will the item fulfill a purpose in my newly organized space? So will that item just be stored? Will it kind of take up space where you could, be using something, or storing something rather, a little more useful? So when it comes to downsizing and you're getting in the groove of decluttering, if you have some of these items that are just going to be stashed in the basement, not seen again, really start asking yourself and making those crucial decisions, whether you want to keep it or not.
Hey, Danielle.
Yeah.
Fantastic advice. And we did have two things in the chat I just wanted to bring up. Molly
All
mentioned
right.
that Big Brothers Big Sister group will pick up
Yes.
donated items right off your porch, which is really cool.
So good. Yes.
Sounds like you've worked with them before.
Yeah, I've given clients that as kind of a reference, but folks who are not, whether they're not able to physically bring the donations somewhere themselves, or, it's just a convenient way to get your donations off to a good cause. But Big Brother, Big Sister will pick up most items, which is great.
That's great. That's great to
Yeah.
know. And then Viana asked if you had any books about organizing that you might recommend. Some of your
Mm,
favorites, maybe.
okay, cool. I love the book Outer Order, Inner Calm by Gretchen Rubin. It's a super simple, like, easy read, and she's very like cut to the chase. She, you know, kind of gives advice in a matter of fact way, and it doesn't feel abrasive or, like too much too soon. It's just little tips, and it's really helpful. That was one of the first books I read that, I kind of wanted to align my work with, because it talks about the connection between how, our outer order, our environment kind of lends to our inner calm, and brings ease to our lives. So that's a
Nice.
really awesome book. Yeah.
Is that by Gretchen Rubin?
Gretchen Rubin. Yep.
Cool. I'll put the link to it in the chat. And
Yeah.
Kathy also
Great.
mentioned that the Epilepsy Foundation will also do pickups as well.
That's great. And Kathy is actually my aunt. Hi, Auntie.
Oh, that's awesome. How you doing, Kathy?
Um, yes. And I think that Savers is also in coordination with the Epilepsy Foundation. And I only say, kind of leave those places for last, only because in store, at least, they tend to kind of sit around for a while and they don't get to people as quickly. But, that is always a good go-to, because it does fund a good cause. So, all right. Any other questions in the chat so far, or good? Okay. All right. So organizing during the moving process. So packing properly can be crucial to optimizing the moving process. Being mindful and purposefully placing your items can alleviate stress when moving day comes. So you can feel like you've at least gotten, some of the work done, and things are in order and things are in place. Um, and it can help you to more easily unpack your home as well. And of course, when you're working with movers, if you organize your belongings in such a way and properly label the boxes, then things won't get broken as often. I know that can be a reality for some people, but it can really optimize the packing process, in terms of like, once the truck comes, you can kind of prioritize certain rooms to, be loaded in such an order. Um, and, some good packing tips to think about would be, again, start early. Um, and you can start early by packing items that, you're sure you want to keep, but you're not going to need access to. So, before moving day comes, you start with items like that, so you don't have to, really think about it. Maybe it's those sentimental things. Maybe it's, just some like winter items when it's springtime. You don't really need to access stuff like that. So start with things that you don't really need throughout your day. Utilize storage totes, bins, and crates that you already own. I think this is important to, save yourself some money, but also be a little more environmentally conscious. So you don't have to purchase as many boxes, as much tape, and the like. Speaking of eco-friendly, you can consider choosing moving box rental companies. So I know U-Haul just started doing rental boxes, and I'm pretty sure they have like some kind of scanning option where you can scan it, and kind of catalog it, which is cool. Box Save is another one, Rent a Crate. Those are all some moving box rental companies you can consider. Um, Surprisingly, people don't really know about this, but U-Haul has a freebie bin. I go there all the time. I'm always getting, just barely used moving boxes, kind of secondhand. So check out any U-Haul store. They usually have it off to, one side of the store or the other in kind of like a recycle bin looking vessel. Um, let's see, Facebook Marketplace, everything free next door. There are always people offering up their again, barely used, sometimes overly used. So you gotta flush those out, but moving boxes. So just keep an eye on platforms like that and see if there are options before purchasing new. Be sure to keep like items together. That's kind of an obvious one, but it just means keeping things that kind of fit the same category, that are going to live in the same room, keeping all of those together. So use the proper size box for each category. Again, I know this seems pretty obvious, but you'd be surprised. I've seen a lot of folks trying to pack smaller items into really large boxes, and those items get all jumbled up and either don't quite fit the box, not really optimizing the space very well, or say, something like your books should go in a smaller box. There's specific book boxes, at U-Haul and places that sell moving boxes because they can get really heavy really quickly.
I
Um,
always put too many books in one box and regret it.
yeah,
I don't
you
know
think they fit until you try
They're
to lift it up.
heavy.
Yeah, so I think it's just important to really visualize and put together what you're about to place in a box before actually putting it in. Um, let's see. So make labels large and bold. So I know that, when kind of moving day is approaching, people want to just pack as much as they can, as fast as they can. They put whatever fits in a box and then they kind of just scribble a label on there. But, again, it's really important for yourself or people who are helping you to have it nice and big and bold with the room that it's going into, kind of at the top, and then maybe just a few items and some of the contents that are in the box, but nice, bold, like think a thick Sharpie, across the box, and do it on the top and the side. And then this is a little extra, but you can consider using a color coding system. They have like those colorful inventory stickers that you can use for, either labeling each room, or color coding each room rather, or color coding like different categories of items or important things, stuff like that. And then kind of the last little technology that I found is they have now like QR codes that are stickers, and you can stick it on the boxes. And again, you can catalog it by taking a picture of the QR code. And then there's an app in your phone. I'll have to look up what the name of the brand is, but it's just another way to kind of streamline the packing process. All right. All right. So benefits of working with an organizer. Um, so when it comes time to either start decluttering before you downsize or just organizing your home, like we said earlier, the accumulation of stuff can really be an overwhelming task for just one person. So there are definitely benefits of working with somebody who has a bit more knowledge and expertise on how to declutter and how to pack and how to organize your space. And that kind of will offset some of the work that you already have to do in your own. So we come up with, customizable solutions that are unique to you and the way that you work and the way that your family works. So, things aren't all, one size fits all. We kind of work with you and work with with your unique organizing, your unique organizing abilities and what you already do within your own home, and kind of tailor that to creating new systems that could work for you a little better. We already kind of hit this point, but it does, reduce some stress when you offset some of the work for, another set of hands to help you with. And trusting that the organizer will work within, your abilities and your capacity. It can really take a lot of the stress out of decluttering. So, you can kind of focus on the buying process and listing your home while an organizer kind of starts the packing, starts the decluttering, and you're able to focus on the buying process. Let's see. All right, so I'm gonna leave this screen up, and you can feel free to unmute, ask me any questions that you might have for either downsizing or organizing, decluttering, some things we chatted about today. You can put it in the chat. I think Alex said he's going to field some questions in the chat.
Yeah,
But
feel
this is
free to
kind of
unmute though, guys. We'd love to hear from you.
no pressure.
Danielle, I know you're really motivated to reduce waste when it comes to all of this and, ethically resource these items.
Yeah.
When it comes to items that are valuable, what are some good outlets that you've used in the past or you'd recommend?
Sure. So it definitely depends on what it is. I'd say that, you can get an estimate from somebody who might know a little better about the specific item. So if it's like an antique, calling an antique dealer, getting kind of a better idea if this thing actually has the value you think it has. You can always use platforms like Facebook Marketplace to sell your items. There's Mercari, there's OfferUp. A lot of these platforms are now in app form and they're easy to kind of navigate. eBay, of course, is another option. But when I am trying to find resources for folks who want to sell their items, I'm usually going to experts in that kind of field, or for example, I had like a piece of sports memorabilia, so I was calling all of these these card shops, these sports memorabilia shops, to get an idea of if this thing actually had value. And it ended up having value, and they were able to kind of facilitate a purchase, which was great. But I think when you want to sell an item, just kind of either get it appraised somewhere if it's necessary, if it's something that you think or know has value, or go to the expert in that kind of field or dimension. And then if it's just something, kind of that you could just sell on Facebook Marketplace, I'd say go to a platform like that.
What was the memorabilia?
It was a baseball bat, a game used by a former Red Sox player named Andre Dawson.
I feel like Molly, you might know who that is.
Oh, really?
Maybe. I'm just guessing.
Don't.
Darn.
I'm wondering when was he from?
Where was he from?
No, like when did he play? Sorry.
When did he play?
I think in the like 80s to 90s.
I
And
think that's before my time.
I think he was on the Chicago Cubs first, if I remember correctly. Did you work with the Red Sox? Is that why?
No, just a
No.
big
No?
fan growing up,
Oh, got it.
but that would be a little bit before my time.
Gotcha.
Worth a shot anyway. Anybody else have any other questions so far? Well, um, I was thinking, especially coming from my side of the business, how do
Mhm.
you often recommend people prepare when they're unpacking their new home?
Cool. So, I always think it's good to come up with a game plan. Just kind of jotting down some notes, writing in maybe some on some post-its and popping on cabinets or closets, places where you think you might want to store your items before you actually start the unpacking process, because that way you're not doing double duty, and if something doesn't fit somewhere, you're not upending it just to move it somewhere else. So really, plan, write things down, using post-it notes to give yourself an idea of where things could live. And definitely starting with your main use spaces like your kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, um, and not waiting too long to unpack, because people tend to be really overwhelmed with the move and then just unpack a few things, and a lot of boxes still remain some months later. So even if you have to work a little at a time, again, working in small increments is really important to build momentum. um, that's kind of a good way to get started.
Thanks. That's
Mhm.
very helpful. And anyone else have any other questions for Danielle? I guess my big question, I think everybody's probably curious about, is what does the process look like when working with a professional organizer?
Yeah. So, we'd start with a phone consultation. That's just an intro. I could get some information about what your priorities are for your project, what whether you're moving or not, and you just need your space organized. We really want to touch on your goals and things that are important to you at the time of your project. After that, we'll set up an in-home assessment and kind of walk through your space. Um, Again, it can look a little different whether you're just needing organizing assistance or organizing assistance before a move. So packing and unpacking as well. But we'll kind of address some areas of concern, spaces you want to start in terms of decluttering. We'll get a bigger picture, and then I'll be able to give you an estimate of time and cost. Again, whether it's for organizing services or packing and unpacking services. I always, on the first session, like to start by sorting your items. When, we're faced with kind of randomized, either randomized piles or like a room full of stuff that doesn't quite have a category, isn't sorted, doesn't really make sense. When we sort it and categorize it, we can kind of break it down and make it a little more digestible. So, sorting and categorizing is really important to tackling a project head on, um, rather than just trying to make decisions with a lot of kind of random items jumbled up together. After that, we would pack whether you're packing or or rather packing before a move, we'd pack items again that you don't really need to access, and find kind of a staging area where we could put those boxes before moving day. And that would typically be somewhere like your basement, or we'd find a place in your home that you don't frequent in and out of, to store those items before moving day comes. And if it's, just your typical organizing project, we would come up with a game plan after decluttering, and kind of a layout of how you'd like your home and space to be organized. We talk about any products that might be necessary to purchase, and and then we kind of implement those products, organize your space, back to the way it's going to function best, and refine and label everything. So it kind of is working in its most efficient way. So that's kind of the process that I usually, whether again organizing, doing a typical organizing project or packing somebody before a move, that's kind of the order of operations.
Thanks. That definitely paints a really thorough picture of it. And I guess Kathy was trying to ask a question, but we couldn't hear her.
Oh
So
no.
she's looking for suggestions of staging while still living in the home. So I'm not sure when it will sell, but need to get some or a lot of stuff out in order to stage. But it's stuff that you still need day to day. That's an interesting
Mm,
one. Yeah, I think, you know, being able to declutter is the number one step here, which Danielle can definitely help you with. And then once decluttered, having anything that seems a little excessive that's out and about that you use on a daily basis, being
mhm,
able to kind of just tuck it away quickly when you need to do showings, and then being able to bring it back out when you're ready for it. For me, most of the time with my clients, if they're still living in the home, I'm doing my best to make sure to just do open houses. So say we, list on a Monday, we do open houses Saturday and Sunday. And ideally, if we priced it right, we're going to have an offer by the following week. So you're really only going to have to disrupt your home life for about 2 hours twice for that first weekend, and then that should be it. Doesn't always go like that. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but hopefully being able to, pull stuff out just Saturday evening when you need it again. And then after Sunday, you'll be all set to go back to normal. But there is a balance there. And, it's your home still. And if you're still living there, you can't, make it completely barren and useless. You need to be able to still cook meals and, take care of your kids and your pets and all that. So, we do what we can, but it doesn't have to be a flawless Ethan Allen store for
mhm.
every open house.
True. And that was great and very thorough, and pretty much exactly what I was going to say is, just I would say just tackle things that are on surfaces that are out, that are on open shelving, that are, even on the ground, stuff that you can visibly see when you walk into your home. It doesn't, like you said, it doesn't have to be an Ethan Allen store or a showroom kitchen. It just has to have less and kind of look visually appealing. So take away all those extra things that you're not quite using every day, and you'll probably come to realize that you do have enough space to continue to store those items that you do. You could even pack some things away in boxes or storage totes just to place them somewhere temporarily, and then bring them back out, as like a collection of those items. So they're all kind of in one place and you know exactly where to find them. But yeah, I'd say really prioritize kind of thinning out and clearing off surfaces, stuff that is immediately visible, not quite things that are behind closed doors.
Kathy also asked if we show a lot of owner occupied spaces, and I would say about 80% of homes are still occupied by the owner. So it's very normal, very, very manageable. But I think unless we have any other questions, we can wrap up and let you guys know how you can get in touch with Danielle. If you want to just jump to the last slide.
Sure. Well, if anybody has any questions for Alex, feel free to also ask questions to the realtor.
I appreciate it. I don't want to take up too much of our time. I will, though, put our links here in the chat, and I will be in touch with all of you tomorrow morning via email with some additional resources as well as our contact information. So if you do have any needs, or if you know anybody that needs any organizing services or real estate services, we would love to coordinate with you, your friends, your family, your coworkers.
So thanks for joining us tonight. Again, my name is Danielle. It was great answering your questions, and yeah, feel free to contact us here. I'll leave this information page up. And yeah, thanks again. Hope you have a good night.
Thanks, Danielle. Thanks, everybody. Liana, thank you. Kathy, thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Molly, Mary.
you.
Again, we'll see you around.